This is an On the Ice and Behind the Benches podcast on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Tempers flare in PNC Park as another six-game road swing for the Toronto Blue Jays begins in Pittsburgh after a six-game homestand in Toronto between the Cubbies of Chicago and the Rangers of Texas. Lights up, let's go.
Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Blue Jays game recap. I am your host, Thomas McGregor of the program. Well, Buccos, well, Blue Jay fans, it is time for the PNC Park to meet the Rogers Center. We'll get into our pitching matchups and all of that we cover on Blue Jay game recap through defensive alignments and get the managers out. But before we go any further in the show, a reminder that this is just game one of a three-game series, game two of this three-game series in PNC Park. As you may recall, on the broadcasts of Sportsnet Pittsburgh and Sportsnet, the home of the Blue Jays, both teams will be meeting at PNC Park for another weather permitting game that will be scheduled to throw first pitch at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time, as both teams, with the current records they're at, heading into the game two of this three-game series. We have the Blue Jays at 73 and 53. The Pirates are at 53 and 70. So a little bit of a reverse. Before we get down to the defensive alignments, pitching matchups, these series were coming off of a homestand. If you're the Blue Jays, they were coming off a homestand in which they took 2 out of 3 against the Chicago Cubs, if memory serves me correct, and 2 out of 3 against the Texas Rangers. Now, I'll reveal the scores as best I can if I remember correctly what the final scores were, but I do recall the last game of the Texas Rangers series being a Blue Jays final score of a 10-4 Ranger victory. And if memory serves me correct, the Pirates were facing the Chicago Cubs after the Chicago Cubs faced the Blue Jays, in which their series between the Cubs was also a 2 out of 3 match where the Pittsburgh Pirates, of course, had taken 2 out of 3, but they had split it with the Cubs with a 3-2 victory Friday night, August 15th, and they took 1 out of 3, I should say. That was Friday night of victory for them. Then they lost 3-1 and 4-3 on Saturday and Sunday. So the Cubbies took 2 out of 3. I was mistaken there, but that's okay. Time to get into where the Pirates are at now. And just a reminder that we will be saying this later, their homestand does continue after their three-game series with the Blue Jays, which wraps up on Wednesday at 12:30 on August the 20th. They'll host the Colorado Rockies for 2 night games, Friday, Saturday, and then, of course, the day game Sunday at 12:05 on the East Coast on August 20, 2025. Dive into more of the schedule as we go throughout this series. The managers, as we get into our defensive alignment right now, are, as mentioned, Don Kelly for the Pirates and John Schneider for the Blue Jays. Now, Blue Jays fans, Pirate fans, if you were watching, tempers were flaring. We will talk about that in just moments. But we have the game to break down. Let's get to the game breakdown. And we'll start with our defensive alignment on how the Blue Jays and the Pirates lined up defensively for game one of this 3-game series. So George Springer is back, Blue Jay fans, and of course he is in the designated hitter spot. He will play designated hitter. As we look here on our notes, he'll play designated hitter. Addison Barger bats second. He will go in right field and will assist Dalton Varsho in center field, who is the 5th hitter in the lineup for the Blue Jays. In left field, we'll have Nathan Lukes batting in the 7th spot. Our infield will consist of Tyler Heideman as the catcher, catching Kevin Gausman. Andres Jimenez will play second base. Ernie Clement is at third base. Bo Bichette is our shortstop. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is at first base. So that's how the Blue Jays line up defensively from both infield, outfield, and of course, the designated hitter spot. George Springer, your designated hitter. Now, Don Kelly faces the 8-9 Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays, who are sending Gausman on the hill for game one of this matchup. Gausman is 8-9 and is hoping to make it 9-9 with a win over the Pirates, taking the Blue Jays to 74 wins and keeping us at 52 losses for the Blue Jays. Did that happen? We'll know momentarily. Meanwhile, he'll face off against a pitcher in Paul Skeens, who hasn't lost a single home game start with the Pittsburgh Pirates in all his starts. He is 5-0 at home, so he hasn't lost a single start in PNC Park. Well, that could change in PNC Park with the Blue Jays. Let's see how Paul Skeens and Don Kelly line up for the Blue Jays defensively. At third base, we've got former Blue Jay IKF, or better known as Isaiah Kinger-Falefa. Apologies, IKF, if I say your name or pronounce it wrong. Henry Davis is the catcher, catching Paul Skeens. He will bat in the 8th spot. Third base is IKF. Spencer Horwitz is at first base, batting in the leadoff spot. He's another former Blue Jay here. Tommy Pham is in at third. He's actually the right fielder. He is batting third, though. Left field. He's in left field. Ryan Reynolds is in right field. And Tommy is batting second. Reynolds is batting third. Our second baseman for the Pirates is Nick Gonzalez, batting in the 4th spot. Our designated hitter to take on George Springer and the Toronto Blue Jays is none other than Andrew McCutchen. Batting in the 6th spot and playing at shortstop is Jarrett Trujillo. He will have shortstop. In center field, joining our left fielder Tommy Pham and right fielder Brian Reynolds, Alexander Canario is batting 7th, and he is the center fielder. So your infield consists of Henry Davis, IKF, Spencer Horwitz, and of course, Nick Gonzalez, with Jared Trillo. Nick Gonzalez at second base, Spencer at first base, IKF at third base, Jared at shortstop, and in center field, it's Alexander. We have Tommy Pham and Brian Reynolds, your right and left fielders. In the outfield, Andrew McCutchen is the designated hitter, and Henry Davis catches Paul Skeens. All right, everyone, time to get into the game. Time to get into it. But how about a little timeout before we get there? When we come back, we will dive into the 5-2 Pittsburgh Pirates' victory over the Toronto Blue Jays. In our Game 1 breakdown of this 3-game series, we will have a look at how the standings line up for today's action, and some news was breaking as we were playing Game 1 of this 3-game series. What is that news? Does it regard Shane Bieber? Does it regard someone going down to Buffalo? Does it regard a DFA? Find out all of that news for either the Pirates or the Blue Jays when we continue on Blue Jays game recap on the ice and behind the benches, and Sports for Beginners will be right back.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Blue Jays, Pirates, everybody. Blue Jays, Pirates, everybody. It's Blue Jays game recap. It's Buccos. It's the Blue Jays. I am your host of the program, Thomas McGregor. Don Kelly is the manager of the Pirates. John Schneider is the manager of the Blue Jays. It's Kevin Gosman versus Paul Skeens. And boy, are we in for a show, folks. Or so we all thought. For some of us. So we all thought. Now, it looks like the pitchers didn't do very well to get the win, but let's take a look at the line score. For the Blue Jays, 2 runs, 6 hits, despite committing 3 errors. If you look at it from the Pirates side, they committed no errors in this ball game, 0 errors game. And if you look very closely, it looks like it was a bullpen game. Let's see how all these runs got scored with our scoring summary to tell us how the scoring took place. It all starts with Alexander Canario singling on a line drive into center field. Gonzalez will score. Jared T will go to third base. It's 1-0 Buccos over Blue Jays. Bottom of the second is when we got the scoring going. Top of the third, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays answer quickly on a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. ground out to former Blue Jay IKF Spencer Horwitz to get the out. George Springer will score with now 2 outs in the inning. Still in the inning. 2 outs. Bo Bichette at the dish. Swinging a line drive into right field. Addison Barger will score. And now a 1-run lead for the Pirates has become a 1-run lead for the Blue Jays. It's now 2-1 Blue Jays over Buccos. Buccos, of course, is what the Pittsburgh Pirates are called as fan bases. Bottom of the third inning. Well, hey, if the Blue Jays were down 1 run and we were down 1 run, that doesn't mean we can't come back from down 1 run. And they're right. The Pirates would indeed come back from down 1 run. On a fielder's choice, Brian Reynolds will reach on a fielder's choice by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who tries to get Spencer Horwitz out, but Tyler Heideman drops the ball, and the Blue Jays would see their 2 run for the Blue Jays get evened up again. It's now 2-2 Buccos over Blue Jays. We are at a 2-run tie with Tommy Pham now at second base on the fielder's choice. Bottom of the 7th inning, and there's not a highlight here to show, but we won't play the highlights. Bottom of the 7th, it's a wild pitch throw by Brendan Little. Henry Davis will score, and the Buccos will go back up 1 run. It's now 3-2 Buccos over Blue Jays. Bottom of the 8th, Pirates up by 1 run yet again. Alexander Canario steals his 3rd stolen base of the game, I should say of the season. Second base, Jared T will score. The Pirates will go up 2 runs now. It's now 4-2 Buccos. And the Blue Jays will see their lead go from a 1-run lead deficit to a 2-run lead deficit that they have to come back from now. Thanks to Alexander Canario's 3rd steal of the season at second base, and the error throw, which scored Alexander to 3rd, and Jarrett Chirillo into home plate. Henry Davis in that inning, that was the bottom of the 8th inning where these occurred, will then get out on a sacrifice fly. Dalton Varsho to make the play. Alexander Canario, he stole a base, and now he's going to score with 2 outs. The Blue Jays are down 3 runs, and that would be all the Pirates would get to finish this ball game. It is the Pirates 5, the Blue Jays 2, and Evan S. from the Pirates bullpen would increase his record from 1 loss and pick up his first ever win. His record now 1-1. Joliel Rodriguez was undefeated going into this matchup with the Pirates, who are 5th in the National League Central. Santana with the save, his 8th save of the season. His name, of course, was Dennis Santana, who is currently on the season 4 wins and 4 losses. That's a record of 4-4, which means with his 8th save, the Pirates going into Game 2 of this 3-game series, which of course is tonight, Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, are now 53-73, heading into their next matchup with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A reminder that Miami Marlins and Blue Jays baseball will be covered here on the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners, but I advise you to stay tuned to the end of the series finale when the Marlins welcome in the Blue Jays to Miami, Florida for 3 games. Before we get closer to taking our next break of the program, let's take a look at our team comparisons here. The Blue Jays left 5 men on base. The Pirates stranded only 7 men on base. As mentioned, of course, did not commit an error in this entire ball game, have any home runs, but neither did the Blue Jays. Both teams had 6 hits to a side. The Pirates with 5 runs to the 2 Blue Jay runs they had in this ball game. They touched base actually 8 times in this ball game. Bases. Now there was some news that was brought out. We mentioned Tempers Flare, but we're going to do that on the other side of the break. We still have an American League, National League standings update to get to, so we're going to get to that. Don't you worry. So we'll take a timeout. It is 1:41 p.m. on the East Coast. We'll take a timeout, and when we come out from that timeout, we'll dive into our American League, National League standings update. We'll get into the player of the game. We'll dive into our top performers, plus Game 2 of this 3-game series, pitching matchup, preview, and the notes you need to know ahead of the Miami Marlins and the Toronto Blue Jays series. That's all coming up when Blue Jays game recap continues. Stay with us on the ice and behind the benches and Sports for Beginners.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look! Look at me! I am always happy. The only reason? I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://sienna-wordpress.com/sienna-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches. It's Blue Jays, it's Pirates, it's Blue Jays game recap, game 1 of a 3-game series. And just a reminder, as welcoming you back into Blue Jays game recap, that the Blue Jays and Pirates are back at it again tonight, August 19th, to begin game 2 of this 3-game series, which throws the first pitch at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time, 11:40 p.m. London Time, 12:40 a.m. Paris Time. It's Paul Skeens versus Kevin Gosman in game 1 of this series. Of course, Evan S. with the win, his record 2-1. Yariel Rodriguez with the L, his record, I should say 1-1 for Evan, who got the win. Dennis Santana, his 8th save of the season. His record in terms of wins and losses remains at 4-4. The records for both teams heading into tonight's matchup. For the Blue Jays, it is 73-55. For the Pirates, it is 53-73. So the Pirates have picked up their 3rd win of the season. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, it's their 3rd loss of the season, a 5 in favor of the Pirates. When we last left you, we were talking about the team comparisons, and there's a lot of news that has broken down since the beginning of the game to the end of the game. For example, Shane Bieber, as per John Schneider, not Justin Bieber, Shane Bieber, is set to make a start against the Miami Marlins, and his first ever start in as many days in his major league career with the Blue Jays against the Miami Marlins. Per Pittsburgh, Keegan Matheson reports as the Blue Jays reporter that the wait is officially over Friday night. Miami will see Shane Bieber make his Blue Jays debut. Manager John Schneider announced the news ahead of the opener on Monday, so last night, against the Pirates at PNC Park. And while the string of TBD that follows Bieber still holds plenty of intrigue, the big piece is finally in place. John Schneider's quote to Keegan Matheson says, "You can allow yourself to get pretty excited when you're adding a guy of that caliber. Once you get to know him, he's the definition of a pro. He fits right in with the guys that we have already in our rotation." He ends with the fact that Shane Bieber is really smart. He understands what he's good at and what he's trying to do. And Schneider says that he's confident right now. The dates all line up awfully well from there too. So they line up well for the Blue Jays, depending on how the Blue Jays choose to structure their rotation. Bieber's next two starts after Miami could easily land against the Brewers the weekend of the 20th. So when the Brewers come to the Rogers Center, or at Yankee Stadium on the 5th and 7th of September. So let me just see if I got this right. It could land August 29th, 31st. If all goes according to plan, he could land also a start against the Yankees on the 5th of September or the 7th of September. Since being acquired by the Blue Jays at the trade deadline for pitching prospect Kyle Stephens, Bieber has finished the final laps of his rehab from Tommy John surgery, and he's nailed every step. His last time out in AAA Buffalo, he threw 7 scoreless innings, 90 pitches, his pinpoint control, and high-end pitch mix on full display. For Bieber to immediately return to 100% his old self is a tough ask. But he'll now have the final month plus to iron out any remaining kinks for the postseason run. Besides, when Bieber has been at his best, he's been one of the top starters in Major League Baseball. He can dominate, but he can also do over 200 innings, which he's hit twice in his career. So, barring any of the things that I was breaking up my voice, he has a way of getting back to his career. He has a way of getting back into his career of 200 innings, which he has done twice. You could put him in the category of some pretty good pitchers where they can dominate areas with different pitches, Schneider said. That makes it kind of tough to sit on one pitch. He's adjusting as he's going to with what he sees from hitters. When you have a guy with good stuff who's really good awareness in real time, you get a Cy Young caliber pitcher. So lots to say there about Shane Bieber. And again, I'm not saying Justin Bieber, I'm saying Shane Bieber. He's not Justin. He's Shane. Perhaps this could help the Blue Jays in a lot of ways. And speaking of the news, there is some news from the Pirates that broke out during this game, including Oliver to be inducted into the Pirates Hall of Fame, in which he quoted that he has made the right choice at the right time and the right team. But his quote that people see in this, I left a lot of history there. A future Hall of Famer for the Pittsburgh Pirates to be inducted into the MLB? Yes, definitely worth a Hall of Fame induction, I think. This guy seems like a guy who knows what he has to do. And Oliver, otherwise known as the Scoop, was his nickname. No matter how the induction ceremony goes, time, great team of choice. And like you said, you left a lot of history there that a lot of people don't really realize until they hear about it. Articles of these stories will be provided in our show notes, beginners that may be provided on whatever articles are not provided on the ASM Behind the Benches, you can find on Sports Beginners' description. And yes, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had to undergo an MRI after exiting the game with a hamstring tightness injury. And also, Pham and Heideman exchanged words, which caused the benches to nearly clear in PNC Park. And I think it's inherent to remind you, if you didn't know or did know but didn't want to remember, John Schneider, manager of the Blue Jays, was ejected for things that, I know there's a lot of people who don't like umpires. Some of us do like the umpires that we can get to know. But if you are someone who does not like umpires, or rather wants to forget about umpires, It is inherited that we do mention that there was an ejection thrown out throughout most of the game. John Schneider was ejected by one of the home play umpires, so he would not return to the dugout. He was ejected for arguing balls and strikes. This would also count as his fourth ejection this season, I believe. Arguing balls and strikes, however you want to say that it would happen, the bottom line is, at least in my opinion, even though John got ejected, well, I'm happy that John got ejected, but nothing else was said afterwards to eject someone and then find out later that they were actually wrong, and the person that was saying you made a bad call is going to say, see, I told you made a bad call, especially with hitters. If you eject someone that is a hitter who's arguing a ball or strike, you're the umpire and you can eject him from the ball game. But one thing that really grinds my beans, and this is why I say regret, is because you could say something to that player, that hitter or pitcher, but then throw the ejection sign out saying that they're ejected from the ball game, and then cause them to blow their top, or however you want to phrase it, then get heated with them, and that sparks the other umpires coming to your aid, trying to sort things out, trying to calm things down. So I'm happy with how this situation played out. Obviously, it doesn't do us any good for the Blue Jays because we were already down and basically out of the game. It was a 5-2 final in favor of the Pirates. But you really have to respect the umpires' decisions where they came from. I'm not going to go too far back, but let's go back to the Yankee series, okay? Aaron Boone comes out, argues, ball strikes, he gets ejected, but then something else happens. Now, whether or not both him and the umpire got heated, or was a heated conversation, and he said something that Aaron Boone didn't like, and Aaron Boone said something the umpire didn't like, that does not give you the right to eject someone and then try and proceed it as normal by saying something that will make you regret it. We've seen it in baseball many, many times. During the Batista era, the Edwin Encarnacion era, we've seen it when Edwin and Bautista were in play. Heck, I'm sure there were times when Miguel Cabrera was in play that has happened. We all have our opinion and we're all entitled to it. But this one gets a pass for me. This ejection for John Schneider gets a pass for me because he argued balls and strikes. He got ejected. And as he argued it, it was just a plain argument. Okay, you want me out here? I'm out. I'll take my leave. I'll go in the dugout. I will say whatever I gotta say in the dugout. I won't come back out. And you are ejected from the ball game. End of story. Period. But had that got heated, well, then the umpire might have thought of getting himself ejected. Look, I don't like to rant about how players play, how the umpires play especially, but I do like to kind of put things into perspective. And speaking of the umpires, let's take a look at what the umpires were while we're on the topic of the ejections between umpires. Let's have a look at it. Our balls and strikes caller was Mark R. I don't know if I could say Mark's last name right, so I'm just going to go with Mark R. Nick F. was at first base. Vic Casparaza was at second base, if I'm saying that right. I'll go with Vic C, if I didn't say it right. Nick Lentz was the third base umpire. Those were our umpiring crews for today's ball game of conversation, game one of this 3-game series. And with that all being said, let's dive into our player of the game, top performer of the game. And I think this is pretty much how it goes. We've gone through our top performers of the game. I'll get back into the tempers flaring and Heideman and Pham where I stand on it in just a moment. But the top performers of the game, Paul Skeens, and rightfully so, he's a player of the game as well. 6 innings complete, 5 hits allowed, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. Kevin Gausman, 4 strikeouts, 2 runs, 5 hits. And then you got Jared 0 for 1 in this ball game. He was 0 for 1 in this ball game, but walked 3 times, drove in a run, and stole a base. Yeah, I could really look at top performers a little bit closer and say maybe that was a little bit of a nitpick there. I'm not sure how I feel about that. However, he did score a run. So that's something. All right, we're almost at the end of the show, and we're almost at the end of the program. Paul Skeens, as mentioned in the top performers, is your Pittsburgh Pirates player of the game. I'll dive into my player of the game for the Blue Jays momentarily, but let's get into our standings update and provide you how both the American League and the National League are preparing for today's action. And speaking of action, today's action has one game underway right now. That is the Cubs and the Brewers. They are currently in the bottom of the first inning. Let's dive right in as we approach our next break. Let's dive right into our regular season standings here, with the Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, Tampa Bay Rays, and Baltimore Orioles each looking at each other from a different standing. The Blue Jays are now 5 games each up on the Yankees and the Red Sox, who are currently tied in games back of the Blue Jays, 5.0 games back of the Blue Jays. The Tampa Bay Rays are 11.5 games back of the Blue Jays division lead, and just 6.5 out of the wild card race. Let's talk about the wild card race momentarily. They're at 61-64 right now, playing against the now second place New York Yankees, who are 67-57. And of course, the Boston Red Sox are against Baltimore, who are at 68-58 for the Red Sox, 58-67 for the Boston Red Sox opponent, the Baltimore Orioles, who are currently 14.5 games out of the division, 9.5 out of the wild card division, 9.5 to be exact. The Blue Jays are 5-5 in their last 10 games, currently on a losing streak, 2-game losing streak. The Yankees are on a 3-game winning streak right now, 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they continue their series with Tampa Bay today. The Boston Red Sox are 4-6 in the last 2. They're on a 2-game losing streak as well, having Baltimore beaten them 2 games in a row. That's a 2-game winning streak for Baltimore, as they are 6-4 in their last 10 games. And Tampa Bay is 5-5, just like the Blue Jays, currently on a 1-game losing streak against the New York Yankees. So lots to say about that. Let's take a look at where the Pirates division is in the National League Central. For the National League Central update, we'll get into the rest of the divisions via the wild card race in just moments, but here's how the Pirates division wraps up for them. The Pirates, with the win over the Blue Jays heading into today, are only 27 games out of the division and 14 games out of the wild card race. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games and currently on a winning streak, 53-73, the record heading in to Tuesday's matchup. The Cardinals are 62-64, 18 games out of the division, 5 games out of the wild card race. They are currently 4-6, currently on a 1-game winning streak as well. They are taking on the Miami Marlins, who are in the American League Central, the National League East, at a record of 59-66. The record for the Cardinals is 62-64. 66-60 is the Cincinnati Reds, who are currently against the LA Angels. 66-60 is the record for the Cincinnati Reds. That series continues today. The Cubs are against the Milwaukee Brewers, who are the division leaders of the National League Central, and currently sit just 9 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers, but are 4 games up on the wild card race. And speaking of up on the wild card race, fighting for that third wild card spot right now in the National League Central is the 1 game back Cincinnati Reds, who are seeing trouble brewing from St. Louis, as St. Louis is starting to get hot. They are 5 games out of the wild card race. And as we mentioned, the Pirates are 14. They're 14 out of the wild card race, but 20 out of the division. So which is more manageable? Well, to me, I think Bucco fans, if you really want playoff success, and although we hope it doesn't happen with the Blue Jays, we hope it's at least 2 out of 3. The only way the Pirates find a way back into the wild card picture is that they start winning against teams not named Blue Jays, but also in their division. And I know there's not a lot of games left, but being 14 games out of a wild card race seems like if they took 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays and won the series against the Blue Jays, of course, Blue Jay fans, we hope we don't want that, but it could be a case. If they start taking series and they start taking wins, this team could be a very good wild card team still. I still think the Pirates might have a shot. One team I know for sure might not have a shot is the team in the Dodgers division in the National League West, and that is the Colorado Rockies at 36-89. 36-89 is the record for the Colorado Rockies, sitting just 35 games out of the wild card race and the division. 30.5 out of the wild card, that is. We have the Arizona Diamondbacks, 11.5 games back of the division leader Dodgers, and 7 games back, I should say, of the wild card race. 5.5 games back of the wild card race, and grinding on the Padres' tail, just 10 games back, is the San Francisco Giants at 61-64. So it's 61-64, the record for the San Francisco Giants. They're against the San Diego Padres, who are 69-56, and currently sit 2 games back of the Dodgers, who are playing the 36-89 Colorado Rockies. In the National League West, last 10 games, the Dodgers are the Padres at 5-5, currently on a 4-game losing streak. The Dodgers are on a 1-game losing streak. A 2-game winning streak for the San Francisco Giants, who in their last 10 games are 3-7. On a 4-game losing streak, like the Arizona Diamondbacks, also 5-5 in their last 10 games, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Rockies are winning ball games. They're on a 4-game winning streak at 6-4 in their last 10 games, which is pretty good. But the Rockies have to make things starting to count. We are getting deeper and deeper into the postseason line. So here come the crutch games, or I should say the crutch series. Here come the crutch series. We will take a break on Blue Jays game recap, and when we come back on the ice and behind the benches and sports for beginners, we will dive into the benches clearing exchange words with Tommy Pham and Tyler Heideman. You'll hear my words on that. We'll take a look at the wild card race. We'll take a look at what the records going into the ongoing action of today's Tuesday action, being the Cubs and the Brewers, and the games scheduled to go later this evening, Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. We'll take a look at the scoreboard of how those records were heading in to their games Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. But first things first, when we return, Tommy Pham versus Tyler Heideman. My thoughts on the benches nearly clearing and the exchange words from both players next. Stay with me.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
It's Blue Jays, it's Pirates, it's Blue Jays game recap. I am your host, Thomas McGregor, letting you know that the Blue Jays and Pirates will get you going for game number 2 of this series at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Pacific Time, I should say Mountain Time, 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time. That is 11:40 p.m. London time, and of course, 12:40 a.m. in Paris. It is Blue Jays, it is the Pirates. This 3-game series wraps up Wednesday afternoon at 12:35 PNC Park, weather permitting. Of course, we are doing our very best to bring out all the shows to you. And news just breaks out as of yesterday for Sports for Beginners, as you probably have heard. You'll be joining me for Pirate baseball, Blue Jay baseball in general, for the Pirates and the Blue Jays throughout this 3-game series. They're getting ready to record their 24th episode of season number 4. After the 23rd episode was a 3-year celebration for Sports for Beginners. We will have our On the Ice and Behind the Benches celebration episode for 3.5 years, as we've been trying to get at least one full season of the show out. We have 2 seasons on the go right now, and that second season will continue into the new year of 2026, but we'll take a brief break to begin season 3 on a note of the NHL break. What break will that be? Stay tuned to an On the Ice and Behind the Benches episode, Sports Beginner listeners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches listener, to find out. Back to our topic of conversation. We mentioned tempers are flaring in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, more specifically PNC Park, and tempers were indeed flaring with the benches near after words were exchanged from catcher Tyler Heideman and hitter Tom on what appeared to be a strikeout or a walk. Our articles, Keegan Mabison and Alex S. Wright from Pittsburgh. Tensions flare between Pirates outfielder Tommy Pham and Tyler Heineman on Monday night at PNC Park, yesterday, of course. And while the waters quickly calmed after the benches cleared, there were still a mix of confusion and emotion after the game. The Pirates took the lead in the 7th inning of their eventual 5-2 win Monday. Pham walked on 4 straight pitches, but the mood shifted when he flicked his wrist and flipped his bat to the ground in front of Heideman with a little extra spice. It didn't look like there was much of conversation between the two amid all the chaos, but once Pham took a step back towards Heideman, teammates were bolting from the dugouts just in case. He didn't say a word to me. I didn't say a word to him. He just looked at me like he wanted to have a fight. Heideman said, I asked the umpire on the 2-0 pitch, you got that just off. It was pretty close right there. He looked at me and didn't say a word. Then he bat flipped and looked straight at me. I just put my arms up and he walked towards me. I don't really know. So there's a lot that could be said here for that bench is clearing. Like I said, they nearly cleared. They exchanged words. No one knows exactly what was said. Tyler Heideman on the matter says, I didn't say a word to him and he didn't say a word to me. He flipped his bat, looked right at me, didn't say a word, and the umpire, of which Tyler Heideman was talking to, was asking about the 2-0 pitch count. He said to the umpire, you got that just off. It was pretty close right there. Maybe miscommunication with the pitch count? Whatever the case, the Pirates escaped a flaring Blue Jay Pirate bench clear of tempers which I hope are in check for tonight's game and hopefully tomorrow afternoon's game, Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. But you just never really know. Eventually, the benches will clear and maybe a fight will break out. I'd advise as fans of the Buccos and the Blue Jays who watch the game from the comfort of our own home to pay close attention to both Pirates and Blue Jay dugouts during the game tonight to see if anything transpires after what happened in last night's game, Monday night, game 1 of this 3-game series. So that's my advisement to you guys. All right, as I said, we're nearing the ending moment of the program. So knowing that, we still have our Blue Jay player of the game to get to, but let's take a look at how the games that did play out while the Pirates game played out with the Blue Jays. Let's take a look at how those games played, and it is a notable fact to remind you that the Brewers and Cubs second game for August the 18th, which was a part of an original doubleheader scheduled for Monday, August the 18th. The first game did play out, the makeup from June 18th. However, it was delayed. The second game was delayed due to rain, and therefore will be made up today with game 1 already underway as part of a Tuesday doubleheader, and that one is currently underway in the top of the third. The makeup game will be later tonight at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, and James Talian will take on Brendan Woodruff in that game, which will go at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:05 p.m. Central Time, 6:05 p.m. Mountain Time, 5:05 p.m. Pacific Time. I don't know what the times will be for the UK or Paris, but I believe they will be within the morning time over there. So let's dive in to the games that have gone final and are getting ready for their next matchup. We'll start with the Brewers there, who there should be some cheers coming out of a crowd surge here, as we'll add it here in the show. A crowd surge going in as we congratulate the Milwaukee Brewers for going on quite the run they had. They had won 14 straight games before they had finally lost a game and then picked up a new winning streak. That came to a shocking end as of this past Sunday when they took on Chicago, who they currently take on right now. I could be wrong, though. It might not be Chicago. It might have been in their series. Saturday was the last match they were playing with one of the teams that they had beaten to go up 14. Sunday was when things came to a head and it finished. And that's why we see where we're currently at on Tuesday, August 19th. The Brewers trying to make sure they could do it again as they have a franchise new high record of 14 straight wins in a single season, which hadn't been done in franchise history in over a couple of decades. Now, they did win the makeup game for June 18th, 7-0 on 9 hits, 2 hits for the Cubbies, 1 error for the Cubbies. Horton with the loss, his record 7-4. Peralta with the win, his record 15-5. The Brewers would score 4 runs in the very first inning of, the Giants would score 4 runs in the very first inning of the ball game. We already talked about the Brewers, whose records currently stand at those other records for the Cubs and the Brewers as of Tuesday right now. The Giants would have a 4-run first inning lead, over the Padres, and it would be 4-0 Giants over Padres until the 7th inning, where it became a 1-run ball game, with the Padres scoring 3 runs on 2 errors committed by the Giants, 4 runs, 8 hits for the Giants, 6 hits, 3 runs for the Padres. Their record 69-56 right now for the Padres. And for the Giants right now, it's 61-64. That series, of course, continues today as the Giants take on pitcher K versus Nick Pavetta. Nick Pavetta gets the start. KT. I don't know how to say that player's first name. I'll try and figure out how to say that off the air. First pitch is at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:40 p.m. Central Time, 7:40 p.m. Mountain Time, 6:40 p.m. Pacific Time. So a little over the 9 o'clock start time on the East Coast is when that game will get going on Tuesday. The Guardians played the Diamondbacks, who are now 60-66 in record. The Guardians are now 64-60 as they take a 3-1 victory over the Diamondbacks with 5 hits to 6 hits from the D-backs. Guardians take the victory. Dodgers, Rockies. Rockies find a way to send the Dodgers another L. 4-3 final over the Dodgers, 71-54 right now. 89 for the Rockies is the record as they win it 4-3. The LA Angels lose 4-1 to the Cincinnati Reds, now currently 60-60 in the record. We have a 60-65 record for the LA Angels amidst the loss. Winning pitcher is Bradley Singer, his record 11-9. Losing pitcher is Victor Madrois, if I'm saying that right. I'll go with Victor F. And the save goes to Scott Barlow, his first of the season. Texas Rangers fight hard, but the Royals come out victorious. It's Zach Littell losing the game. His record now 7-7. Michael Wacha with the win. His record 8-9. And Carlos Estevez with his 32nd save of the season as the Rangers fall to the Royals and fall to 62-64, 4-3 the final there. 64-61 the Royals improved to in record with a victory over the Texas Rangers. The White Sox playing a little bit of football, it looks like, against the Atlanta Braves. 45-80 is the record right now for the White Sox. 56-69 is the record for the Atlanta Braves as the White Sox hammer the Braves 13-9 with a fourth inning 6-run lead in just the fourth inning where 6 runs came in to score, and they would have 19 hits to 15 for the Atlanta Braves. The Braves would commit 2 errors, but the White Sox would not leave the ball game without an error. They commit an error as well. White Sox 39. So the White Sox win 13-9. The Baltimore Orioles, on the other hand, pick up a 6-3 victory over the now 68-58 Boston Red Sox. Trevor Rogers with the victory, his record. Dustin May, his record 7-9 with the loss. 12 hits to 6 for the Baltimore Orioles over the Boston Red Sox. 3 runs for the Red Sox, 6 runs for the Orioles. They take the victory as the series continues. If we talk about shutouts, the 7-0 shutout for the Brewers wasn't the only shutout in this ballgame, as the Tigers in Comerica Park with Jack Flaherty scored 10 runs and shut down the Astros 10-0. The record 74-53 for the Tigers, 69-56 for the Astros right now. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the other side of Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia Phillies take care of business against the Seattle Mariners, and boy, do they ever, scoring 12 runs on 7 runs for the Mariners, 9 hits for the Mariners. But get this, despite the Mariners causing only 1 error in this ball game and the Phillies causing no errors in the ball game, they out-hit the Mariners 29 in the hits. Thomas, that really don't matter to us. Why are you bringing that up? Well, it's kind of important news. As mentioned, the Brewers and Cubs makeup game that was supposed to be just a makeup game for June 18th to a game on August the 18th, which was, of course, last night, Monday. That game was made up for today, Tuesday, as another doubleheader. So a Monday doubleheader becomes a Tuesday doubleheader. And that Tuesday/Monday doubleheader begins with one game already underway right now, and the next game won't be until 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:05 p.m. Central Time, 6:05 p.m. Mountain Time. So that won't be for another few hours, as we are in 3:20 p.m. on the East Coast right now. So a lot of baseball to get to before you get to that doubleheader. Speaking of which, the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees begin their series against each other today. It is Carlos Rodon versus Shane Baz. First pitch scheduled to go just 35 minutes after 6 o'clock p.m. on the Central Coast, 35 minutes after 4 o'clock p.m. hour on the Mountain Coast of the Pacific. So it's going to be a great match to watch. They didn't have a game on Monday, so they were the only teams ideal, I think. They didn't play on Sunday, I don't think. And if they did, they were probably wrapping up a series with one of their other teams who might have had a series to begin Monday. The last game to look at is the records between the 62 and 64, 59, 66 Miami Marlins versus the St. Louis Cardinals, who eat the Marlins for breakfast 8-3. Sorry, the Cardinals out-hit the Marlins, and they outscored the Marlins 8-3, 10-6. The only thing they didn't outscore them was errors. But Thomas, no one likes making errors in a ball game. How does that benefit the Cardinals? Well, you could say they escaped it. The Marlins had 2 errors, and the Cardinals had only 1 error. But those were your scoreboards for Monday. Of course, the Blue Jays, 5-2 losers over the Pirates. So everybody in Pennsylvania seemed to be having a blast with a Pirate victory, Pittsburgh victory, Philadelphia victory. I wonder how tomorrow's games play out. And by tomorrow, I'm referring to today's Max Scherzer, Mitch Keller matchup between the Blue Jays and the Pirates. And it looks like the Mariners will be facing Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies, with Bryce Miller on the hill trying to increase his win-loss record from 2 and Chris Sanchez is trying to increase his win-loss record from 11-4 to 12-4. Will that happen? Tune into the games and find out. Speaking of which, we have wasted, I think, enough time on our player of the game, and we are just into that final moment of our program. So let's get back to the 5-4, 5-2 Pirate victory, I should say, in which Evan S., who had lost a game, never picked up a game victory until last night, goes from a record of 0-1 to 1-1 with his first ever win with the Pirates this season. Yaliel Rodriguez was at 1-1 on the record. He goes to 2-1. And Dennis Santana, his record 4-4 is where it will stay. His win for the Pirates as the save is his 8th save of the season. So, with that being said, let's dive into our Blue Jay player of the game. And on the other side of a 30-second timeout for both platforms, we will give you the attendance record for Game 1. We will briefly mention where both teams' records are at heading into Game 2, which is just hours away from getting going. Who knows, by the time you're listening to this, it may be showtime for game number 2 of the series. Before we get into the player of the game, just a reminder that the series does wrap up early in the morning. 12:35 in the afternoon Wednesday is the first pitch. We will have you covered for that game and game 2 of this 3-game series as soon as those games go final. On the hill, as mentioned before getting to our player of the game, it is Scherzer and Mitch Keller. We will talk about them on the other side of a 30-second timeout. But before we forget, let's get into our Blue Jays player of the game. And for those of you just joining us, if you are a Pirates fan and you were wondering what the Pirates player of the game was, as per our MLB.com Pirate Blue Jays game breakdown. Player of the game was the starting pitcher, Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, his record, and the person he was facing, Kevin Gausman, their records will stay right where they are, and the records per their next starts are 7-9 for Paul Skeens, and for Kevin Gausman, his record will remain at 8-9, with both pitchers going in a no decision, which means they don't get the win and they don't get the loss. If you have a different pitcher or player of the game for the Pirates, let us know in the comment section below on Spotify, or shoot us a message on Sports for Beginners or on the Ice and Behind the Benches' Facebook page. Sports for Beginners is community group on WhatsApp. If you're invited into it, we'd like to hear from you and tell us who you think the Pirates player of the game should be. For me, Blue Jays fans, on the positive note, though it was a really tough one to balance because the bench is nearly cleared, the manager got ejected, all those bad things about the ball game that happened, the errors, the miscues, and whatnot, I think it's safe to say that my Blue Jays player of the game would have to be Addison Barger, the 1-for-3 Addison Barger, where they hit a walk and a run driven in. But of course, you could give credit where credit is due with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, he did not get on base. No, he got on base, but via hit by pitches, I think. He does drive in an RBI into at bats with a strikeout. And remember, the one run that he drove in was the one run that tied this ball game in the bottom of the second, and it was a good one nonetheless. The player of the game for me is Addison Barger. Let me know, Blue Jay fans, who you think is the Blue Jays player of the game for this game. And I know, not really worth talking about players of the game because, well, they lost. But hey, the great thing about baseball is we get to do it all over again today, tomorrow, this afternoon, tomorrow evening. You get the picture. That's the great thing about baseball. Ball games get played, and when you're on an off day, you have a chance to replenish, refuel, and figure out how you're going to take care of the next couple of games in the ball game. Also, like to hear your thoughts on Shane Bieber starting against whoever the Miami Marlins will pitch in his start with the Blue Jays. Put it in the comment sections. I'll answer your thoughts on the Miami Marlins show. Shane Bieber, make no mistake about it, he'll be back and join the Blue Jays with his first ever major league start in as many days since coming off of Tommy John surgery, and he will pitch against the Miami Marlins as his first ever opponent in as many days with the Blue Jays major league debut of Shane Bieber. That's going to be a fun one. All right, time to wrap up this show, but first, a 30-second timeout word from both stations on the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners. Blue Jays game recap. Pirates and Blue Jays, Buccos and Jays. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Stay with us.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. Two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
All right, everybody. Buccos, Blue Jays. Blue Jays game recap. Game 1 is officially in the books. Game 2 is on its way. Perhaps it's closer than you think. We'll dive in to its pitching matchup momentarily. We've gone through the players of the game, the pitching matchups. For this one, we will be capping off the second game of this series, which is a Tuesday 6:40 p.m. start on the East Coast, 5:40 p.m. start on the Central Coast, 4:40 p.m. start on the Mountain Coast, 3:40 p.m. start on the Pacific Coast, and of course, 11:40 p.m. London time with a 12:40 a.m. start in Paris for Game 2 of this series. Pirates baseball and Blue Jays baseball continues with you on the ice and behind the benches Wednesday as we break down game 2 of this 3-game series. And then, of course, after the 12:35 start finishes on Wednesday afternoon, join us for the series finale as we break down the Pirates and the Blue Jays next games following their series, of which we mentioned the Rockies are taking on the Pirates next in PNC Park to wrap up a 6-game homestand for the Pittsburgh Pirates, in the Blue Jays being one of those pieces of the homestand. And of course, the Blue Jays make their way for a Friday weekend set against the Miami Marlins, and then they come home to open up a series against the Minnesota Twins and prepare for battle against the Milwaukee Brewers in another 6-game homestand of their very own. Just a reminder of the Rockies and Pirates first pitch for game 1, which will begin once we wrap up this series with the Blue Jays. That, of course, will be a 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time start, and it will follow into Saturday with a p.m. start there, part of free t-shirt giveaway day. The series wraps up on Sunday, August 24th at 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:05 a.m. Central Time, 10:05 p.m. a.m. Mountain Time, 9:05 p.m. a.m. Pacific. Then they're on the road for 4 against the Cardinals, wrapping up on Thursday, August 28th. And then off to Fenway Park we go, Pirates fans, before the second and almost close to final matchups for the homestand as we near the conclusion of the 2025-2026 regular season for Pirates baseball. So lots of baseball still to be played, not a lot of games left to win yourself a spot in the playoffs, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. That series between the Rockies and the Pirates continues Saturday and finishes Sunday against the Rockies before they head on the road to face the St. Louis Cardinals and the Boston Red Sox. Sure to be fun series. Sure to be a fun finish to October. I can guarantee you that, Bucko fans. All right. Player of the game out of the way. Attendance record coming up in just 5 minutes. Let's dive in to our AL and NL wildcard race. At the bottom of the barrel in the wildcard race between the leaders in the Chicago Cubs, New York Mets, and the San Diego Padres, who currently hold possession of the first, second, and third wildcard spot. We have just a game back of the New York Mets, and probably close to the San Diego Padres is the Cincinnati Reds at 60-60. They're 1 game out of the wild card race. 5 games out of the wild card race are the St. Louis Cardinals. They are against the Miami Marlins, who are currently 7.5 games out of the wild card race. And 5.5 out of the wild card race is the Padres' opponent, the San Francisco Giants, at 61-64. The Arizona Diamondbacks are currently 7 games out of the wild card race in the National League wild card, sitting at a record of 60-66. The 10.5 Atlanta Braves are out of the wild card race just by 10.5 at 56-69, currently 8-2 in their last 10 games and on a losing streak right now. The Pirates are 14 games out. 53-73 is the record right now. They continue their series with the Blue Jays, as will the Nationals continue their series with the third wildcard spot leader, 66-58 New York Mets. It's the 50-74 Washington Nationals, who are 16 games out and 5-5, and their last 10. At 30.5 games out of the wildcard race, they're continuing their series with the third place leader in the National League leaders, of the National League West, East, and Central. We have the 36-89 Colorado Rockies, 6-4 in their last 10 games. They are 30-5 games out of the wild card race. So they are 30.5 games out of the wild card race. Meanwhile, the teams trying to avoid the wild card because they're already the top of the division are the LA Dodgers at 71-54 on a losing streak right now, 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Philadelphia Phillies are 72-53, just a couple games back of leading Milwaukee Brewers, who are 79-45. Both those teams are on a one-game winning streak, but the Phillies are on a two-game winning streak as their series with the Chicago Cubs, Seattle Mariners, and the Colorado Rockies continues. Those are the division leader matchups. Your American League wildcard race looks like this. The Blue Jays are not out of the American League leaders right now, but they are sitting in second place, just a game back of the Detroit Tigers with a 74-53 record to a 73-53 record. The Astros are 69-56, a couple of games back of the Blue Jays and the Tigers, but not too far back. Both Blue Jays and Astros are 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Tigers are starting to heat really up as they continue their series with the Astros. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. So the division leader Astros and Tigers are playing each other. Meanwhile, as far as the wild cards are concerned, the Yankees are moving up and they are currently at the top of the first place wild card spot at 67-57. 68-58 is the Boston Red Sox. 68-58 for the Seattle Mariners is the record for both the Red Sox and the Seattle Mariners. They're continuing their series against Baltimore and, of course, Philadelphia Phillies, which currently is a tied record for second place in the American League wild card race. The third wild card spot is kind of up for grabs, and only 3 games out of the wild card race is the Cleveland Guardians, sitting at 64-60, but at 64-61, just 3.5 games back, and on a 4-game winning streak right now is the Kansas City Royals. They're continuing their series with the team that's right behind them, just 6 games out of the wild card race. The 62-64 Texas Rangers, who currently are on a 1-game losing streak. The Royals on a 4-game winning streak. The Guardians are on a 1-game winning streak. Tampa Bay Rays are just 6.5 out of the wild card race for the American League, currently at 5-5 in their last 10 games and on a losing streak. Today, the LA Angels continue their series with the Cincinnati Reds at 60-65. The Cincinnati Reds record mentioned in the National League is, of course, 66-60. That's the record for the Cincinnati Reds. Angels are 7.5 games out of the wild card race. Just 9 games out of the wild card race is the Minnesota Twins, sitting at 58-66. At 58-67, 9.5 games out, the Baltimore Orioles. See, I told you things can change. The Orioles were at the bottom. Now they are just close to the bottom, just 9.5 out of the wild card game. I should say, yes, the wild card race. The Athletics are 12 games out of the wild card race, sitting at 56-70. And at the very bottom of that list is the Chicago White Sox, who begin their series or continue their series with the Atlanta Braves. That is going to be fun. They are 22.5 games out of the wild card race. That's where everybody stands wild card wise. And that is your National League and American League wild card race standings update. All right, we're in that closing moment. We're in that sign-off moment. But let's quickly take a look at how game 1 of this doubleheader, Monday/Tuesday doubleheader for the Brewers and the Cubs is going. And then we'll make sure we get right into what's to expect from the Pirates. Mitch Keller versus Max Scherzer matchup. That's going to be a fun one, folks, to look at. Currently, it is now 5-2 Cubbies over the Brewers. Matt Boyd remains in the game as of right now. There's nobody out with one on, and the count is 0-2 on Isaac Collins. Continue to watch that game. If you are watching that game, they're in the top of the sixth right now, just a couple of frames away from being done the first game of this series in the doubleheader that was supposed to play out Monday, which did play out kind of, but the Monday game's later game got moved to Tuesday, and now the Tuesday game is now an 8-5 start, and that will wrap up our baseball content for you. It'll be Talon versus Woodruff for both the Cubs and the Brewers, 5 minutes after 8 p.m. on the East Coast. It is 3:54 p.m. and we're getting close to the top of the hour, 4 p.m. on the East Coast, which means on the Central Coast, it's almost 3 p.m. and it is almost 2 p.m. on the mountainside, and it is about 1 on Pacific Coast. What time is it now here in London as we wrap up our show? As we continue to count down to the top of the hour, 4 it's now 8 at night in London, 8:55 to be precise, and it's 9:55 p.m. in Paris. For those of us in those time zones, if you are planning to go to bed at this time, I suggest you get your necessary rest that you guys need and tune into this show when you possibly can. The Blue Jays and the Pirates wrap up their series at 12:30 afternoon. 12:35 is the scheduled first pitch in PNC Park. But before that, one more night game in PNC Park at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time, 11:40 p.m. London, UK, 12:40 a.m. Paris Time. That is the matchup to look for, Scherzer versus... But for now, we're wrapping up this show and saying that the PNC Park night game that took place at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Mountain Time, around 42 minutes after those clocks went to just 2 minutes after 6:40 p.m. And of course, the other times mentioned. Despite being 2 hours and 44 minutes long, the Pirates win in front of a attendance record of 17,477 fans in attendance. They take the opener against the Blue Jays 5-2 and hope to take game 2 of this series with a chance to clear the series and welcome in the Rockies for 3 games beginning Friday night on August 2025. We are almost at the end of summer and we are almost at the end of the baseball season, folks. It is crunch time for those teams who still think they have a shot to win this whole thing and believe they have a shot to make a push into the postseason. As great as the teams may look on paper, the final results are how the teams do in the finish line. My name is Thomas McGregor. This has been Blue Jays Game Recap on the Ice and Behind the Benches and Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Lights up, let's go. I look forward to seeing Bucco fans and Blue Jays fans from far and wide back here again after Game 2 of this 3-game series goes final. It's Mitch Keller, it's Max Scherzer, Don Kelly, John Schneider. What are their lineups going to look like for tonight's game? Who knows? Enjoy the ball game, and we'll see each other after Game 2 goes final. Have yourselves a great week, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast 8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the On the Ice and Behind the Benches post-game show on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed. Remember, everybody on the Ice and Behind the Benches, to join Thomas every Tuesday for weekly episodes of your favorite ice content, from the drop of the puck to hitting the showers. We thank you for joining us. Hey Blue Jays fans, a Blue Jays game recap for Sports for Beginners. It is your host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, the podcast, Thomas McGregor here. While it may have come to an end on Sports for Beginners, I highly encourage you to stay tuned for further updates on Sports for Beginners as they are taking a new path. But don't be afraid to join me during the next road series as Blue Jays game recap continues on the Ice and Behind the Benches. From all of us at Sports for Beginners who put Blue Jays game recap into play, thank you very much for joining us and listening to the show. If you'd like to see it again, please let our host of Sports for Beginners know, and have yourselves a great All-Star weekend and a great second half. See you then.